Ladies and gentlemen, in the interest of air safety and your own personal safety, we ask that you keep a close watch on your carry-on and personal items.
Welcome to the Aero Exploration Podcast, where aviation's past, present, and future meet. We explore the stories that build aviation history, take you inside the industry today, and uncover the career paths and innovations keeping the industry in motion. We go behind the scenes, into the cockpit, and onto the ramp, meeting the people and discovering the places that define aviation. If it's part of the flying world, you'll find it here. This is Aero Exploration.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Aero Exploration Podcast. My name is Jim, and I'm your host. I'm a CFI, I'm an aviation enthusiast, and I just love sharing aviation with anyone who will listen. On this episode, we're going to talk about a topic that I think is really relevant to a lot of people, whether you're a pilot or a student pilot or just looking to get into aviation. This topic is for you. Say that you're a busy professional, you've got your family life, you've got work, you've got kids and a ton of different sports, and for one reason or another, your ratings are stalled out. It happens to tons and tons of people through aviation. It's happened to me on pretty much every rating that I've worked on. At one point in time or another, something pops up and you have to take a pause, which ultimately will result in now you have to go back. You're repeating lessons either in the air or on the ground. That takes time and it costs money. Both are things that we don't always have an infinite supply of. Okay, none of us have that. But if we did, we'd probably burn it all on aviation. We're going to sit down with Nick Smith, who is the creator of Part-Time Pilot. Now, I met Nick last year at AirVenture. Super awesome guy. Really cares about the product he puts out and the people who use it. We met up with several people throughout the course of AirVenture as we wandered around together. And I saw the impact that he had with his students. And it was really kind of impressive to see the connection he was able to make through an online ground school and the support that he provides through that. Nick is also going to talk about his background in aerospace engineering and how he transitioned into part-time pilot. So without further ado, welcome Nick to the Aero Exploration Podcast. Well, Nick, I'm really happy to have you on the podcast. It's been a minute since we've talked. We connected at AirVenture last year, and we've been talking about getting you on the podcast, and here we are.
Yeah, I'm super excited. Thanks for having me, carving out some time. And it's crazy that I don't know, for some reason it seems like longer than a year since last. I don't know if this year went by slow or what, but I don't know. Usually they go by fast, but this one went by slow. So I guess that's a good thing.
Yeah. You're not going to AirVenture this year though, right?
I'm not. No. Had some other things going on, and as you know, it's quite a trek. Quite a adventure to get there. So
it's right in the title of the show. So
yeah, exactly.
So for our listening audience, how about you tell us a little bit about how you got interested in aviation?
Yeah, for sure. So the very first thing I remember really being into aviation, other than watching Top Gun or something, was my family and family friend. We went to like Disney World. My dad had like a company manager's trip, and we got to go to Disney World. And there was a shuttle launch at Cocoa Beach. So we went to Cocoa Beach and watched the shuttle launch, and that kind of hooked me in. At that point, I wanted to be an astronaut, and then so that kind of is what drove me into aviation from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, you talk about wanting to be an astronaut, but did you see like being a pilot as a career, or like what at that point in life? I mean, what do you see as the options? I'd imagine you're fairly young, so.
Yeah, weirdly, I never looked at being a pilot as a career. I thought about like fighter pilot, but I didn't want to kind of give my freedom away to the military.
Yeah.
Respect for those that do.
I mean, that's a 10-year commitment right out the gate if you're going to fly, isn't it?
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. It's a lot. So, but I don't know why, but I never thought of like being an airline pilot, maybe just because it seemed like you're always gone, always, you're traveling, but not really for yourself. I don't really know why. I mean, it'd be a great job, but it was always kind of just like astronaut or like building rockets, like was the thing. And so that's what led me into aerospace engineering when I did that. And then obviously I'm not an astronaut in space right now. So, life changes. And
No kidding.
but everything I kind of did was try and like build that resume up. So that's why I got my pilot's license in the first place. That's why I got my degrees. And then would I still love to be an astronaut if NASA knocked on my door? Absolutely. But my goals have changed for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit and talk about the education piece. So we talked about you talk about these benchmarks of trying to get things towards becoming an astronaut or at least rocket scientist. That's my word, not yours. So what path do you end up taking? I mean, I assume you go into college and start working towards that?
Yeah. So actually, I went to a speech. I don't even remember his name, which is a shame. I should remember his name. But there was a shuttle astronaut giving a speech. And then afterwards, I just kind of hung around and I was like, hey, I think I was in. So before I was really into basketball in high school, that was like my thing. So I actually went to a small college first, Division II, on a basketball scholarship. And then I kind of realized, you know what? I'm short and I'm not that good. So I'm not going to the NBA or anything. I should probably focus on my academics. So then I transferred to the University of Washington. And it was during that time where I went and saw this speech, kind of when I was figuring things out. And I hung back and I was like, hey, I want to be an astronaut. Like, what should I do? And he like gave me his email and he was like, don't share this with anybody. I was like, all right. And I didn't.
So you're not going to share it for the podcast, I think.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Got it.
And he was basically, he laid out he was really nice. He laid out a plan for me of what he recommends if I didn't want to go the military route, what he would recommend I do. And it was like, apply every time, get your pilot's license, get your IFR license, get a couple master's degrees and
couple master's degrees.
Yeah. And try and work in, find a specialty that can like do experiments in the ISS at the time. Right. I know it's different now. So basically a mission specialist, as they call it. So not like the captain or the, I can't remember what they call it, but usually there's like what the crews they send up, there's usually like, like a full on former, fighter jet pilot that has a ton of hours and he's like the captain of the crew. And then there's like some mission specialists who are like, experts on like something else about the mission. Maybe they're an electric, expert in an electrical engineering in case anything goes bad, but then they're also an expert in something else, some biology experiment, just have these expertise. So that was kind of the route I started myself off with. And I kind of thought, if that's my goal and even if I don't reach all these things, like, and I fall short, wherever I fall short will probably be pretty solid. So
Sure.
So that was the goal. Yeah.
Okay. So you have 2 master's degrees then?
I only have one.
Yeah. Oh man, that's why you're not an astronaut, I guess.
Yeah, probably. I got sick of being poor
That's
for
fair.
a college student. So
yeah, I mean, that's the thing. So it's an aerospace engineering, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So what was your plan at that point? You get this degree and where do you go from there?
Yeah. So it was kind of like, all right, I'm ready to make some money and like, live my life and all that stuff. And so I had an internship at Boeing when I was at the University of Washington. And there was actually a cool opportunity. They had a propulsion rotation program. So that was kind of my focus on my master's degree was propulsion. And so this rotation program was really cool because you could kind of go for like 6 months, or I think it was 8 months. You go to different parts of the company because Boeing's such a big company. They have different, and every place is different, like there's some engineering jobs that are like really boring at Boeing. And then there's some that are like really exciting. And there's so many different aspects of what they do. And so that was really cool. And so I took that opportunity and did that to kind of see, where I wanted to go from there.
Is that fairly competitive with Boeing?
the rotation program was competitive, and the internships are pretty competitive as well. But the University of Washington had a good kind of pipeline to Boeing.
Sure. What's right there?
Right there, yeah. And they like share the wind tunnel and all that stuff. So,
okay.
So yeah, it was, so having that internship kind of gave me a leg up, right? I proved to some people, I had some mentors. Usually you get a mentor at Boeing, and they were like, "Oh, you're a good worker. You're normal. Like, when you're ready for a job, like give us a call. We'll see what we can find." And that's kind of how I went about it. So yeah, it was nice. It was helpful.
Okay. So what are some interesting things that you did through that rotational program?
Yeah. So the first one I did was actually in this, it was cool. I had like this great view of like the Puget Sound and the Cascade Mountains, and it was in Bellevue. Usually in people that know Boeing, they think of Everett, Washington, but they had some offices in Bellevue, and it was in like computational fuels analysis. And I had not done a lot of this stuff, but basically we were connected to Boeing, a server farm that Boeing rented out, and we were doing like large scale simulations using MATLAB Simulink, if anybody knows what that is. So basically,
I do, but for those that don't know,
yeah. So for those that don't know, it's basically this computer software that allows you to like build basically like an airplane in simulation. So you can have you can input like a fuel pump that has these different, performance characteristics, and then connect it. It's like this data pathway. It's like this plane made out of data. And then you can run, and then you can say, okay, I'm going to, I want to see over 1 million flights where the pressure ranges from all these levels, the temperature ranges from all these levels, the turbulence is from all these levels. I want to see like 1 million different combinations of these flights and see if this thing like fails or if there's an unsafe condition somewhere in there.
Okay.
So that was really cool. I learned a lot there. And that was kind of what I'm saying. Like some of them were really cool. And then some of them, because my internship was in like integration when I was in school, and I was just on a Excel sheet all day long. You know what I mean? So there's different layers. Not to say anybody in that isn't important or anything, but it was a little more dull. And so that was really, really cool. And then what I did was I was actually able to I'm not like a huge coder, but I had like gotten into it a little bit, and I was able to like redo their kind of the way they set up the simulations or whatever, and get it so that a simulation, instead of taking 24 hours, would take like three hours.
Oh, wow.
And I had a lot of help. I didn't come up with the idea myself, but I was able to do that during my rotation program. And it was for the 777X, which what is it, 9X, 8X? It's crazy that they're still working on it. And this was like 12 years ago. And so I was doing a lot of simulations for them because they're like figuring out, what supplier should we go to? They say this fuel pump can do this fuel bladder can do this, put all these in there and do all these simulations. So I was doing a ton, and then they just liked what I was doing. And so they actually pulled me. They're like, we're going to have your next rotation be with us. And so then I just went there, and then I didn't even do my third rotation because the person on the 777X who ran their fuel system simulating model retired, and then the other one left for SpaceX. And so it was me and one other guy, and they were like, we need you to stay. So I didn't really finish the whole rotation, but yeah.
So how long did you stay doing that then? Once they kind of,
so so I finished out the rotation, saying that in quotation marks, which was it was like a 2-year program, because in their system I was still in the rotation, even though I wasn't really rotating.
Sure.
And then at that point I had met a girl, and I'd always been interested in moving to Southern California, and she really wanted to. And my sister lived in LA. So we kind of talked about it, and I applied to some jobs in San Diego and got a job that I thought was pretty cool on military drones.
Okay.
Flight test engineer for drones. And so we moved down to San Diego, and then I did that.
Are we talking like the large scale drones? Or are we talking like the smaller unmanned systems, or what kind of drones are we talking about?
but it was General Atomics. They make the Reaper or the Predator drone.
Okay, yeah.
So it's the famous or infamous, however you want to say it, drone. So that was what I was working on and doing flight test engineering. What was cool is again, in aerospace, for new people, if they get into aerospace engineering, especially working with the FAA and certifications and things like that, there's a lot of paperwork and red tape you got to go through, and it can be a bit boring. But the cool thing about the group that I got into at General Atomics was I was in their special projects unit, and so that they kind of took the red tape off that. So we moved a lot faster, and it was like, a prime example was when they started weaponizing those, like actually, because first it was just cameras, right? And then they put Hellfire missiles on them.
Mm-hmm.
But that came from the special projects team. They did all the testing, said, hey, is this possible? Can we do this? And we need it in a month, right? So that was the cool part about it. It was much faster pace, much less, red tape and all that stuff. And so it was pretty interesting for quite a while.
I mean, that seems like some pretty interesting work for, like, everyone thinks aviation, they think pilots, right? And I'm trying to focus a bit more on these other things that are out there for aviation. And I mean, there's the aerospace and the engineering side of it. I mean, we wouldn't be doing a lot of the things we're doing without people in those roles. So, like, what does that market look like these days for people that might be interested in something like that?
Well, so when you were saying that, I don't know if this directly answers your question, but it made me think of the pilots that I worked with for all these flight tests. Because if people don't know, all the drones are different, but these particular drones were piloted by a pilot and a co-pilot, but they also operated the camera and would check, all that
like
stuff.
Like a sensor operator or something like that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I forgot the word. It's been a while. Anyway, so they were fully legit pilots, former military pilots, all this stuff. And you're in like this ground control station that's like, blacked out, and it's got all these computers, but they got big screens. It's like a super advanced simulator, you don't, move around or anything like that, but it's legit flying. And I feel like a lot of people don't think about that when they think about drones or possibility of a career. So if you're in the military, I don't know of any. I know they're coming out with air taxis and all these other things. So who knows what's coming down the pipeline? But
right.
In the military, there are a lot of pilot opportunities for that. So, and they make good money.
So what was it?
Safer.
Oh, God. So is there something that made you go a different direction, or what direction do you go from that?
Yeah. So one of the things about that job that was great. So that's when I started getting my pilot's license.
Okay.
And the thing about the flight test engineering role was projects came and go. So our schedule was very like slow. And then like 16-hour days while we're flight testing on site, And so it would be like, all right, this is your next project you're going to work on. It's in 3 months. Tests are in 3 months. Let's write this test plan, get all these things planned. But they would allow us, to kind of work from home, things like that. And so it allowed me some flexibility to kind of start to get my pilot's license. And it was through the experience I had through my pilot's license that actually led me to the idea. I always kind of had an entrepreneurial bug. And, just when I was, one of the reasons, another reason I chose aerospace engineering is I thought it would, make me set, right? When I was younger in high school, I was like, oh, aerospace engineers, I bet they're so rich. Like I'm going to be set. And, the economies. And so it just wasn't what I expected it to be.
Okay.
And so that kind of rekindled the entrepreneur bug in me to kind of break away from that. And then it was while I was doing my pilot training, after kind of struggling through it, which we can talk about, but I talk about on my website and social media a lot. And that gave me the idea to start my company part-time pilot through that experience, and then also having the flexibility in with my schedule at that job.
You mentioned now part-time pilot. So I know it's on your socials and it's on your website, but what is the story behind the challenges that you faced that was kind of the inspiration for this project?
Yeah. So at this point, I was a flight test engineer. When we do flight tests, they actually require you to do a ground school.
Okay.
Like go through ground school, because you're right there when you're directing a flight test, you're telling the pilots what to do. So they want you to understand the airplane.
Makes sense.
Like you're a pilot, right?
Yeah.
So you don't tell the pilot to do something stupid, or you don't put them in an unsafe condition. So I had that experience. I had my aerospace engineering background, right? So like knowledge wise, like I was there. And so I actually started flying when I was at Boeing, and everything was smooth. Like I really liked my instructor. I was, flying once or twice a week, and I soloed within like 10 hours, which is really, really quick. So it like kind of came naturally to me. And then I decided to move. So that was like mistake number one. Like so the flight industry, the flight training industry did a lot to me, but I also did a lot to myself in this process to make it a struggle. And so that was one of the things that I don't recommend anybody do. Don't have some big life event or move during your flight training. It's going to cost you a lot of money. So anyways, I came back to San Diego, and then I came down to San Diego, and then I just picked the first flight school that was closest to me. That was mistake number two, right? Not doing the research. And then I actually picked a Part 141 school. I didn't even understand, what I was doing when I did that. They have more requirements and things. So I basically didn't realize I was setting myself up to have to start all the way over. So then just going through that and the stress that came with that, and then getting busy at work, and it just dragged on and on and on. And it felt like this endless cycle. So even though that like I had the knowledge, I was pretty good. I was good on the sticks from the start. It still just gave me the ring around, like, and I almost quit like several times. So, I thought it was going to be like $10,000, and it was going to take a year max. And it was like $24,000 later, and like 3.5 years later, I was finally able to get my, do my check ride and pass my check ride. And one of those things in there too was, you think like San Diego, oh, that's a perfect place to learn to fly, right? Well, we had to do our solo cross countries at a Part 141, because they have to have their syllabus okayed by the FAA.
Sure.
Training course outline, they call it TCO. They had predetermined solo cross country flights.
Oh,
and
okay.
Ours were to like Palm Springs, then down to Yuma, and then back. And when I had to get my long solo cross country down, it was like July. And so it was really hot, and especially in Yuma and Palm Springs. And our airplanes can only, these old Cessnas can only go to what they have in the performance charts, which is like up to like 105 Fahrenheit. And then also in the summer, we have June gloom, we call it, right? Where we get overcast layers until about 10 or 11 p.m. So I was stuck in this like little small window where I had to get out in VFR conditions, which most days it wasn't because of that, overcast from the marine layer. But then get to land in Palm Springs and Yuma before it was 105 or higher, which was like impossible. So it took me like months and months to get that solo cross country to even be able to attempt it. So that was, and the whole time you have to stay current, right? You have to keep your solo currency. You have to take at a Part 141, you have to do like stage check requirement. You have to do retests. And so it was just like, I was just giving and giving money with no progress. And so it was that whole frustrating, stressful experience. Afterwards, I kind of like did a debrief and was like, man, I made a lot of mistakes. I wish I would have known all this stuff. I could have done this way better. And so that kind of birthed Part-Time Pilot. And it just started off as kind of a social media, just kind of telling people, hey, don't do this. Don't do what I did.
Right.
It'll save you a lot of money and stress. And And then from there, it transitioned into what it is today.
Okay. And I think you speak to something that's pretty common for the private pilot experience, unfortunately, that life gets in the way or work gets in the way or you move, like you said, or there's a life event that occurs and now you're sidelined for a bit or weather sidelines you or there's maintenance. The list goes on, right? So I think it's important to talk about that, like, yeah, you might want to sit down and say, this is going to take 10 grand in 1 year to the end. And some people can pull it off. But I think that there's plenty of people out there who know the struggle of grinding through a rating, whether it's private or commercial or CFI. I mean, it took me 3 years to get to my CFI rating as I worked through that. So it's a very relevant point, I think, for people who are looking at aviation, even if it's just as a hobby. Don't give up.
Exactly. Yeah, don't give up. And there's a lot of things you can't control, like weather, aircraft malfunctions, things like that. But there's a lot of things you can. And if you could, the things that you can control, you don't want to add on more things that could delay a flight or cause you to redo a lesson. And sometimes it just takes knowing it before you get started. Like knowing these things before you get started, having a little bit of a plan before you get started, that can really save a big headache. Like one classic example is, call an AME before you go in to the actual appointment, right? Just talk to them. See, like, hey, wait, I might have this ailment that I had no idea could get me deferred and, have me delayed years on if I would have just went and got some paper signed by my primary care or something. It's just little things like that, people are so excited to fly, and I totally get it. That's what I was. But if you just try and educate students before they get to that point, it can be really helpful.
Yeah, for sure. You start more as like this social presence and trying to share your story. And how does that develop from there for you?
Yeah, so I actually had so I told you I had to do ground school for my job. And I actually had done it before because I started my pilot's license before. I did aerospace engineering. And I don't know if anyone out there who's listening who's been to school, when you work so hard on notes, you keep them forever. You keep them in your attic in a box, right? So I was just we were moving or something. I was looking at these notes and I was like, man, I should really do something with all this hard work that I did. And I had rewritten all my notes into this great thing. So I was like, I'm going to make a ebook of all my notes. And that's kind of how it started. I realized that I could become a ground instructor and I could endorse people for the written and so I played with that idea for a little bit. I made some guides and ebooks. One of them was kind of how to become a pilot the most, cost effective way. That was one guide. And then one was kind of like a study guide. But what really drove it home was, the students that I was kind of mentoring, I realized there was a difference between the ones that seemed to have the right stuff and progressed really quickly through. So I started doing kind of ebook PDF download. So I had a free, how to become a pilot and save money during the process, which was kind of all my tips and tricks. I had a study guide that I started giving out. And then what really drove it home to create an online ground school and start teaching people the knowledge was I was mentoring I was talking to students, kind of mentoring them online. And I saw a difference between the ones that were really successful through flight training, right? They had the people say they would have the right stuff, they progressed through. They got it done in $10, $12, $15,000. And the ones that kind of got stuck and didn't really see progress, kept paying and paying and paying. And one of those, and the difference that I saw was that the ones that were really progressing through is they were better mentally prepared when they showed up to their flight lessons. And it allowed them to fly ahead of the aircraft mentally, right? In Top Gun Maverick, they say fly, don't think, right? So it's when you're thinking, when the cockpit is a classroom, you're going to make mistakes. You're not going to hear the radio calls. You're not going to see traffic. You're not going to see you're losing altitude. You're not going to see you're uncoordinated. And when those things happen, your instructor is not going to check off, oh, you're good on that lesson, we can progress to the next thing. They're going to say, hey, we have to redo that flight lesson. And then if you keep doing that, then your instructor is going to say, you know what, you're behind mentally. We're going to have to start doing one-on-one ground lessons because whatever ground you did before, it didn't work for you. So now you're paying one-on-one lessons with a flight instructor instead of flying with your flight instructor. and that costs 50, 60, 70, 80, $100, $120 here in Southern California an hour. So you're just burning money. And so I saw the difference between the students that were really successful and were able to push through. They were showing up to flight lessons mentally prepared. So that realization really drove it home that, hey, and when I started looking at all the online options for ground school, and I just thought, man, I could do this better. I can be there. I can provide support, community, the advice, the mentorship, and turns out I found I have a passion for teaching, and that I'm pretty good at it. So I didn't know I had that, but I guess I had.
Was that a bit of a surprise?
Yeah, it was. It was a surprise. My mom was a teacher and a swim coach her whole life, or not her whole life, but her whole professional life. And so it's funny. I was like, Mom, did you ever think I would be like an educator like you? And she's like, no, I never did. And I was like, well, I guess I am. So anyways, I just kind of had that realization, and that's kind of what drove me to create the online ground schools. Yeah.
So from your perspective, I mean, you talk about how, for what you're looking for, there wasn't anything that really like matched that, or what you've created rather. What is unique about your program, in your opinion, that makes you stand out?
Yeah, that's a great question. So if you look through our reviews, it really stands out, and it's the support. It's being able to talk to a human being at basically any day of the week and get support on a technical ground school question, right? It's not just, hey, submit a ticket and we'll help you reset your password or something. Or it's not, submit a ticket, we'll get back to you in a few days. It's, I'm studying right now. I got this study momentum, and I have a question right now on Sunday night. And if I don't get this answered, like, it's going to break all my momentum, and that sucks, right? You got to go look for answers. So there's that, but then there's also the support I mentioned with, all the mentorship I was doing. Like, we've embedded that into our course. So we try and educate our students on the flight training process from the very beginning, give them a plan on how to navigate everything from start to finish. So it's really an A to Z, right? I made a video today and I called it Alpha to Zulu, right? Alpha to Zulu program that isn't just a course, because I mean, let's face it, like the FAA gives out their PHAC and their flying handbook for free. They've been doing that for years. There's free YouTube videos. We have a free podcast. There's AI. Like, if you're just selling a course, if you're just gatekeeping content and that's all you're giving the students, what are they even buying? What's the point of buying that? What, for slightly more HD videos or something? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. So that's why we wanted to provide the support, the community. One thing we're starting to start back up is live Q&A sessions and kind of study accountability sessions. We're going to have engagements and prizes, and keep people accountable on their studies, to do it in a group. So just things like that, to kind of bridge the gap between, something you might get in a cool community at like a flying club, but online. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
So in that space, you talk about Alpha to Zulu, right? As a new student, or even a CFI who wants to point their student at the right resource, what does that experience look like for them as they start off with part-time pilot, as opposed to, say, one of the other ones?
Yeah. So the first thing we do is we have a bonus course, and we're actually updating it to kind of not make it required, but just so every student that joins part-time pilot, they get this course, but it's kind of forgotten by a lot of students, and we want students to go through it. We don't want to make it required, but we want students to say, hey, you should really go through this before. And that's where all our advice on how to navigate and make a plan for your training really comes, because it's so, I can't stress enough how important all that stuff is, to have a good plan for your flight training before you get started. And so that's the first thing we do, right? That's the first step. We educate them on the flight training process and how they should do it the best. And we even talk about financial plans and, should you get a loan? Like all these questions that students want to know. And then we teach them the knowledge. And instead of just, preparing them to pass the multiple choice FAA written question test, we focus on actual understanding. So this we have like I guess our core mission statement would be that a mentally prepared student pilot is going to pay less at the end, right? So, and the number one reason student pilots don't become a pilot is money. Like it really is. Like if you talk to a flight instructor, there are students that like they're just like they just don't have it, right? But it's actually very few, right? Usually it's other things going on in their life, and these things that happen where they have to pay a lot more than they expected or they planned for, and they have to say, you know what, I can't do this anymore.
Right.
I got to pay for my family and blah blah blah. So that's the number one reason. And so the best way to tackle that is to get students who actually understand the concepts behind it, not just memorize factoids to pass an FAA written exam. So when you actually understand something, what we talked about, right? When you're not able to just fly the aircraft, when you actually understand these things, fundamentally, you're able to fly the aircraft, focus on your ATC calls, focus on looking for traffic. And your instructor and your examiner are going to see that. You would know this when you see a student that it is truly exuding the pilot in command, right? Rather than behind mentally. So that's our number one goal with our lessons, is to get students like that. And there is a need for test prep. We're not saying we don't do test prep, because we have over 1,700 flashcards, quizzes, and practices and all that. But we do that afterwards, right? We focus on the understanding first, and then we say, okay, now that you understand that, sorry, there's like a big monstera leaf right here. Now that we do that, now let's do the test prep, and let's do that rote memorization stuff to get you prepared, and then you'll pass your exam. So, and then we also continue on, and we help them for their check ride as well. And we have tools to help them prepare for their flight lessons as well. So it's that kind of A to Z, Alpha to Zulu, the whole way through, getting them, again, that number one belief of a mentally prepared student is going to be able to finish easier and pay less. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The other thing I was going to ask you about, as far as so we're talking about getting to that level of understanding. So I know that, you and I both know that people learn in different ways. So are we talking like slide decks or written material or videos, or is it a combination of all of that?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And that's exactly why we have written lessons with visual aids and step-by-step examples. But we also have over 150 videos or something. We're making more all the time. And then every single lesson is also audio. Okay. So we also have an audio version. And we don't just take the transcripts of our videos. We actually create the audio as if someone didn't have any visuals to learn, right? So if we'll describe a visual, or we'll use certain metaphors to kind of paint a picture in their mind. And the reason, again, we do that is exactly what you said, because everybody learns different. And it's all about, and even sometimes a lot of our students they'll read the lesson, and then on their drive to work, they'll listen to the lesson, and more things click the second time through, or when they listen to it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And is that kind of where the podcast came into play then?
Yeah, exactly. So I had the idea to make the audio lessons, because I love listening to podcasts and learning from podcasts and things like that. I was like, why don't I do this for our course? And then, so we just started putting them on a podcast, as to see if people would like it, free podcast. And it was really, really popular. And so right now we have about 40% of our online ground school for private pilot and IFR completely free on our free podcast. Okay. We paused the new episodes because I got busy, and it's a lot of work, as you know. It is. Yeah. But inside the course, students have all the audio lessons already. But we re-record them for the free version, put ads and things like that. So that's what we've paused. But we do have, for our paid members, ad-free, all the audio lessons. Yeah.
Okay. So if I'm not mistaken, right now you have Sport Pilot, Private Pilot, and IFR. Is that right? Okay. As you build this out, have you explored doing other ratings? Like commercial or MEI or multi-engine or CFI?
Yeah, so 100% commercial is already being looked at, as well as multi-engine. So those are 100%. And then I kind of just go where the market tells me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'll probably do CFI after that. We'll probably do CFI, but yeah, that's the immediate plans right now is commercial and multi to have that whole stack.
So I have not seen the video content yet, but how do you put that together? Do you have stuff in the aircraft, or are they like just animations, or a combination?
It's a combination. So when I first made videos, it was, it's pretty funny to look back at my early videos and see how horrible they were. Good information, but the production quality was low for sure. And so it was a combination of slides, simple animations, things like that.
Okay.
So in the past couple of years, we've really worked on improving those videos and adding more animations, more visually appealing things. There's still some, there's some concepts where there's no really animations, right? Like if we're talking about FARs, for seatbelts or something, we don't have an animation for that. So some of the stuff is still kind of like not slide deck, but it's kind of me talking in front of a screen and with some bullet points or something. So there's still that, obviously, and then really exciting, another podcast guy, which you should connect with, is Positive Rate Aviation. Ricky, have you ever?
I haven't heard of that one yet. No.
So we have started a partnership where he's creating in-flight videos for us.
Okay.
And so his Positive Rate Aviation is kind of like a media company with aviation that they're starting up.
Okay, sure.
And so we've already got a couple of videos from them, and they're amazing. So we're going to have new in-flight videos and things like that as well. So I'm pretty excited. Yeah, I'm really excited about that.
I remembered a question I was going to ask you, so this is going to be totally out of order. I might edit it in the right spot, or I might have this conversation about how I edit it improperly, and it's just here for no reason. And that question was, you talk about how, all right, I'm a student, I'm trying to power through something, and I'm just stuck. And you talk about the support that you all offer. So how does that work? Do you have like instructors or other people that are kind of at the ready to be mentors, or what does that look like?
Yeah. So I'm on the support, like I'm responding to support stuff all the time as well. But then we have some assistants that are able to, the non-technical stuff, answer those. And then we also have a part-time instructor. So that's kind of the current team. It fluctuates, right? Because the part-time instructors, sometimes they get an airline job and they say peace out, and then something. But that's generally the core team that's able to respond and get to all the help. And then, as I mentioned, we've had on every single lesson, we have an AI that we've lowered the imagination, I don't know what they call it, but basically we've only gave it our content and the FAA content to make sure it doesn't hallucinate and stuff.
Like,
and that's
on every
single,
look for things and don't make things up.
Right, exactly. And so that's on every single lesson, so that if students just want to get a quick answer from the AI, they can do that. If not, they can contact us. And then we also I mentioned we're starting the twice a month live Q&A sessions that students can join live and ask questions there as well.
So you mentioned AI a little bit. Are there other things you guys are doing with AI for like interactive tools? Like, I don't know, voice-to-voice ATC simulation.
Yeah. So that's something new. It's not included in the ground school.
Okay.
It's a separate subscription. And it's because it costs us a lot of money to do the real-time voice-to-voice.
Yeah.
But it's really cool. And so we have basically what we do is we have a monthly subscription with all our AI tools. So we have that expert chat that doesn't hallucinate, right? Then we have a one that's trained on all the FAA medical exam. So everything that AMEs are trained to do. So if students have medical questions, obviously disclaimer, it's not a doctor or a lawyer or anything like that.
Dr. AI.
So we have lots of disclaimers there, but it's good to, if you want to, ask a question, get a quick answer. And then we have these real-time voice-to-voice things. So we have one that the AI acts like ATC, and it starts off and it says, would you like to do beginner, intermediate, or advanced ATC practice. And then let's say you'll say beginner, and then you can even say, hey, I want to use this tail number and this airport. And it says, okay, we'll do that. And then it says, do you want to give me a scenario, or do you want me to choose one? Say you choose one, and it'll say, okay, you're taxing from what it'll set up the scenario, and then it'll play the role as ATC. And then if you mess up, it'll say like, good job, but hey, you should say this. Let's try it again. And it's really cool. It's like ATC and a coach all the same thing. And then we have one for a mock check ride. So you can oral check ride, obviously. So it plays the role as a DPE. And then it also we have that one be a little more stern and less nice, right? AI can be really nice and cause you to think you're the smartest person ever. So we have the DPE be a little more stern and say, no, you're wrong.
In talking about the voice-to-voice ATC simulation, I could think that there's some existing pilots with ratings that could probably use that. But
absolutely.
I mean, how many people get in the plane and they get that mic fright? They hit that little transmit button and you don't know what to say. I think that's probably a really valuable tool for not just the people in training.
Well, and it's something, if you don't use it, you lose it, like, especially just like getting all the information for the read back is like something that takes repetition and practice. And if you don't do that, you kind of lose that skill.
Yeah, I was thinking about that. Like I just did some practice approaches with my instructor the other day, and it's been a long time since I've done instrument stuff. And I'm listening to the ATC stuff, and I just feel so behind with what they're saying. I'm like, how would I read this back? Fortunately, I was just safety pilot, and she read it back. But
right, yeah, no, exactly.
Like, I think maybe I missed that part. So, but I mean, you're totally right. It's a perishable skill if you're not using it. It's definitely something that will deteriorate over time.
Yeah, and to be able to practice that on the ground and not up in the air is really valuable.
Oh, for sure. Without that engine running.
Yeah.
I mean, a small little monthly fee versus $100-something an hour to take a plane up and talk on the radio.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what's next for you all? Is there anything on the horizon that you can talk about, I guess?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely the commercial and multi-engine courses. And then we have a lot of ideas for tools that help, again, the student throughout the entire process. So things like analytics that go into your flight training, preparing for flight lessons, things along that nature. More interactive study tools that we have ideas for. We just came out with an update to our mobile app. Shout out to our app developer, did an amazing job. But so the whole reason we made it, because our course was already fully mobile friendly. So I was like, everybody was like, you should have a mobile app. And I was always like, well, why? It was like mobile friendly. And someone was like, well, I don't have good internet a lot of times. So mobile app, I was like, okay.
That makes sense.
So we were able to basically like lighten all our coursework and put it into an app so that you can do lessons offline. And then when you're online, it syncs back with your thing.
That's
and
cool.
then, we also have like an E6B on there. And then we're looking into more kind of app-based, interactive tools that can help you study without any internet, if that's the case.
That happens.
Yeah. I mean, if the Starlink goes out on your commercial flight or something.
Right.
Yeah.
From an instructor standpoint, say that I got a student, I'm trying to find a ground school for them. Is there like a way for instructors to track where their students' progress is through your program, or how would that work for instructors?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have free access for flight instructors. You can just go to parttimepilot.com and click on the menu in instructors, and you just have to prove you're a CFI. Once you do that, we make you what's called a flight training group inside of our system.
Okay.
And then when a student enrolls in our ground school, we send them an invite to your group, and then that links you to them in our system. And then you're able to see their progress, see their grades on the lesson quizzes, see their practice tests, and you can even review. We also have review quizzes with them, so you can see which ones they got wrong, which ones they got right.
So you could sit down for a ground session and go, all right, well, let's talk about these things you missed on cross-country flight plan.
Exactly. Exactly. So
Awesome.
you say homework, take this quiz, and then
Yeah.
before the flight, we'll go over what you missed. So really that collaborative, and that's exactly what we try to do with the online ground school, because we understand that the best way students understand is when they get something wrong, they can talk to somebody and actually understand why they
Right.
got it wrong, because then they won't miss it again. You know what I mean? And we also have like lesson plans for those freelance CFIs that you can download for free, syllabuses and ground worksheets and things like that. So yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
As a freelance CFI, I might be doing some research later.
Yeah. Hey, we'll get you access for sure.
Well, Nick, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate the time. I'm glad we were able to finally make this work. And I wish you nothing but the best in your endeavor with this. It's a really cool program. And I can't wait to check it out a little bit more.
Awesome, Jim. Yeah, it was really fun. And I'm sad that I'm not going to Oshkosh this year, but have a great time. And I really appreciate you having me on. You're a great dude. And you work really hard on your podcast. So keep it up.
I appreciate that. And I will have a cheese curd taco for you at AirVenture. Well, thanks so much to Nick for joining me on this episode of the podcast. It's been a long time coming, but I think it was worth it. There's a lot of really good information that he was able to share. And I hope that you or someone you know who's interested in aviation can get something out of this episode. If you're interested in checking out Nick's content, he's all over social media at Part-Time Pilot. He's got different reels and videos and little clips. He also has the podcast that have various private pilot and instrument lessons incorporated into them. But the main school is at parttimepilot.com. You can check that out. I will put a link for that down in the show notes. Hey, Oshkosh is right around the corner. And if you are interested in getting some merch for the Aero Exploration podcast or YouTube channel, jump onto flyingmidwest.com/merch, and you can check out all the latest and greatest in aero exploration fashion so that you can show off at AirVenture or your next aviation event or flying club, social, or what have you. And while you're there, make sure that you share the podcast with others. The more that people share, the more that people like, subscribe, leave comments and reviews, the more that we're able to get exposure for the podcast. I think there's a lot of good people that we've been able to talk to. There's a lot of information that we can share. So I ask for your help in sharing that with others. All right, everyone, that's going to do it for this episode of Aero Exploration. Thank you so much for joining me, and we will see you on the next episode.